Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Saturday evening, guys. Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as season. Got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Saturday evening, guys. Quick word. So I was watching Judge Mathis, right? I can't even say his name without laughing. Oh my goodness. I was watching Judge Mathis on YouTube. And so it was a case where there were two sisters who didn't get along. In fact, they've always had a very tumultuous relationship. They were still fairly young. I mean, they're in their 60s. You guys know I don't listen. What I consider to be old is 80s and 90s. And if you're 80 and 90 and you're still here, honey, you ain't old, honey. Keep riding till the wheels fall off. Period. But they're like in their late 60s, something like that. Excuse me. One had some physical limitations. I think she was like using a walker or something like that, or one of those knee scooters. So they were explaining to the judge that they always would just not get along. However, one of the sisters had a child, and her child had a child, so that would be her grandkids. One of the sister's grandchildren, something happened along the way, and the mother of those kids lost custody. So the sister, right, one of the two sisters who don't get along with each other, somehow she got temporary custody of the children, something like that. So they had to come to court in regards to that. But of course, the other sister, was there to support her daughter on trying to get custody of her child. So now you have these two individuals, excluding the daughter, the granddaughter, or whatever, the daughter, the young girl. So you have these two sisters, again, who are in their 60s. And Judge Mathis couldn't even get a word in because, I mean, they were constantly attacking each other. And listen, hear me, right? Because siblings are just, it is what it is. You're going to get into bickering moments, things like that with your siblings, or just even friends, right? You get into your little moments. But I'm speaking about relationships that have never, ever worked. We're not talking about bickering every now and then. We're talking about never, ever, ever has worked. So they're in their 60s. And not only are they arguing in the courtroom, you see the heaviness on both of their faces. The heaviness as in if we are in our 60s and I still can't stand you. We're in our 60s and this heaviness and this, you know. And so I had this revelation. I had to download when I was watching it because I was just shaking my head and I was like, God, it's bothersome that some people will never ever reach a place of peace. And when I say a place of peace, it doesn't mean peace that the relationship works out of whoever. This can be a sibling for you. This can be a ex-best friend. This can be a whoever, an ex-lover, whoever, right? But to be in your 60s and still have this toxic mindset of just, and again, it won't bother you until you have arrived to a place of peace. Once you've arrived to a place of peace, it's the only thing that you want. And so they said that they hadn't spoken in years or whatever, but again, they had to see each other because of this situation with one of their daughters. And I mean, they turned that courtroom up. And then when it was over, Judge Mathis had enough. You know, when we stress them out, they like rub the top of their head. Like they down their head and they rub the top of their heads. So Judge Mathis just had enough. And, he awarded one. And as they were walking out the door, it was that's why your husband cheated on you. Well, that's why your husband dead. Well, that's why such and such. Well, that's why daddy ain't never said. Oh my God. In their 60s. And again, this wasn't petty bickering. They were literally going for each other's throats. And as I was just sitting there in sadness, I was like, God, I mean, 60s isn't old, but it's not young either. Will you ever arrive to the place of understanding that some relationships, no matter how much you tried, will ever work out? And that's okay. That's okay. I think what keeps people stuck a lot of the times, I'm sorry guys, I think what keeps people stuck a lot of the times is it's that expectation of maybe the person will change at some point. It's the hope of, I just wish I could have a daughter-mother relationship. My mother has just never been a mother, and I'm just going to do life and never experience what it was to have a healthy mother or a healthy father, or even know I never known my father. So it's still that hope, that longing of wanting it to somehow work. And the truth of the matter is, it may be bondage. It may be bondage. And it may be time to start freeing yourself so God can bring you the relationships that do work. The relationships that has always been meant. But you can't bring those relationships if you're still clinging on to the ones that will never work. And again, you're not talking about somebody who's bickering for, you had a spat and you haven't spoken in 6 months. You're talking about these relationships. You might have had a parent who was on drugs, and it's done been 57 years and they still refuse to admit it. And every time y'all together, it's just you're trying to force them to admit that they were a bad parent. You're trying to force them to admit, and they're just blocking you like, no, and you're like, you're just making excuses. And then they're saying like, well, I showed up to your ballet. Oh God. Meaning it's that lifetime struggle. This is a season where God is literally bringing together kingdom partnerships. Okay, not just kingdom spouses, kingdom partnerships. Individuals who you will join visions together, individuals who you will join partnerships, and God will expand it because they're in this country or in there. Like, he's bringing together, and when God brings together a relationship, it's solid. It's solid, it's pure, right? Not to say it will be perfect. You're going to still bicker over there. Yeah, but it's not that hate. That hate. Like, you can look at these two people. They hated each other. Or one hated the other. The other one just kind of seemed like she was just like, girl, whatever. But it was hate there. That is not a place where God wants us to be. Because somebody is quote unquote blood. Or because somebody is quote unquote I don't know, somebody you raised, or this or that, or they had your back when you was the crackhead. So now you feel obligated, right? You feel obligated to, and true, you do need to honor somebody who had your back when you were on your face. But if it gets to the point where it's toxic and unhealthy, you can't let that keep you in bondage. Like, listen, free yourself. Go back and be like, listen, I thank you for having my back when I was down, right? If there's anything I can do for you, with the exception of feeling like we have to keep this quote unquote relationship going, even though it's killing the both of us, like, please reach out. Please reach out. But I'm not going to be indebted for a lifetime to a toxic, unhealthy, hateful, narcissist relationship because you had my back at some point in my life. I'm going to always honor you there. I'm going to always have your back when you need it there. But I'm not going to stay tied up because I feel like I owe you something. Or I feel like because the world or the family would look and say, well, that doesn't look good that two brothers aren't brothering. and people are whopping, whop. I sound like my daddy right now because he be struggling with certain words. Wop. Oh my goodness. Okay, never mind. I'm trying to say what. WARPING. Warp. Warp. I don't know. But people are literally attaching attaching their minds to the mindset of I gotta stay even though I'm being tortured. I gotta stay even though I'm so not at peace. I gotta stay because it looks good for the cameras. I gotta stay because I paid, which is foolish, $100,000 for this wedding, and I just gotta stay because they were just waiting. They said it wouldn't last, and I just gotta stay. Stay where? Stay where? Y'all, please. I'll call y'all and tell y'all I'm packing up and leaving. Stay where? Because I got to worry about what they're going to say because they just been to the wedding for years ago, and now I got to worry about. So I'm just going to sit in this misery. I'm just going to sit here and just die inside because they're going to talk about me because I filed for divorce or I left the marriage, I left the relationship. Some relationships will never work. Ever. No amount of counseling. So, for some of you who are struggling because God is removing people, and it feels like punishment, and it feels like you did something wrong because we can't control the narrative in regards to how God interrupts it. So, what happened a lot of times is you're more focused on the way it happened. So let's just say, excuse me, let's just say that the person betrayed you in some kind of way, right? Well, because your emotions are raw, you're just all focusing on the fact that this heifer, girl, I had your back when you ain't had nowhere to go, right? Your emotions are too raw. Is heifer a curse word? I don't even know. What is heifer anyway? What is a heifer? Y'all let me know in the comment section, right? You're not used to hear your grandmama them or your mom them say heifer, but what really is a heifer? You know what? I'm gonna tell you right now. What is a heifer?
Here's the definition of heifer. A young female cow that has not borne a calf.
Wait a minute. Hold up. So you mean to tell me our grandmamas and moms were calling people cows? Lord have mercy. So, God. So, you're too focused on. Kizzy, please get it together. You're too focused on the how the betrayal happened versus again that it had to happen and God had to interrupt it because for some reason you just couldn't walk away. Let it be again, could have been a narcissist, could have been a soul tie, could have just been your loyalty factor, could have been that you just have that great heart and you just can't walk away. Toxic empathy, all right? You just can't walk away from people, right? So if you really change your perspective and realize that it had to happen because you could never walk away yourself, regardless if your little feelings are hurt, regardless if like you're really going through it, it had to happen. Right now you're just in a transition period, which is the hardest because it's like, okay, it just happened and now it's all separated. So you don't even see any indications that someone is coming soon and that God is about to really send new people, send your soul tribes, etc., etc. So you just got to get through this hump. But once you get through this heartbreak and this hump and that lonely place of when God starts stripping away people who you are more accustomed to and have been around you for a very, very long time, when you start to see that he's replacing them, and not to say replace them in a way as replace them. I mean, some of them need to be replaced, period. But that season is just done. That season is over. You can't move on to purpose. You can't go higher. God can't elevate you levels at a time when you have people that you're still remaining attached to for all the wrong reasons. So if you're there, feel it, right? Feel it, grieve it, and understand that it had to happen. Understand that every single relationship cannot be saved. Let go of the perspective that just because someone is X, Y, and Z, let go of that perspective. God will send you your real folks. God will send you your real folks. This is not for everyone, right? But if it happens to be for you, tap in. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.